Hello, my name is Dr. Batbold. I am from the Faculty of Science at Queensland University of Technology, Australia, and I will be presenting on our paper, Mentorable Interfaces for Automated Vehicles, a New Paradigm for Designing Learnable Technology for Older Adults. Our research topic looks at how older adults can best benefit from automated vehicles in enhancing their well-being and spatial mobility. We look at the frustrations, barriers, and challenges that older adults may face when learning to use in-vehicle interfaces and ask, how can automated vehicle interfaces be designed in a way that meets older adult learning preferences and needs? Although automated vehicles and their in-vehicle technologies demand less cognitive, motor, and sensor acuity than manual driving, engaging and interacting with in-vehicle interfaces will demand increased digital literacy. This demand has been suggested to be a significant barrier to older adults, as they will be required to learn to interact with these interfaces. This challenge has us consider several interesting areas of research, namely, how are older adults regarded in AV adoption, and whether and how digital literacy has been tackled in the context of AVs. What are the requirements for technology education for older adults, and how is technology education framed within HCI? First, we take a look at age-targeted research in AVs. Currently, most research views older adults solely through the lens of their age-related changes and considers them as vulnerable road users. To ensure the well-being of older adults and their spatial mobility, there's a need to consider beyond the limits of regarding older adults as a disabled group. HMI usability has been studied, and the usability of such interfaces have been linked to age-related factors, such as cognitive performance and working memory. Research has explored various factors in AV adoption, including trust and acceptance, operational factors, such as situation awareness and takeover control across the 6 levels of automation. But there is a gap in understanding the learning dynamics older adults employ when using these systems. When we take a look at the larger topic of age-related learning strategies and digital literacy, we ask how older adults learn and adapt to new technologies. Although there is a general assumption that older adults are averse to using technologies, they are found to in fact be keen to adopt them once their value is demonstrated. Older adults have been found to prioritize learning and support most, as they use and learn technologies differently than younger users. In particular, older adults have been found to learn through collaborative, peer-supported learning. In fact, in one study, learning collaboratively in a social environment was found to improve older adults' performance to such a degree that their performances were indistinguishable from younger demographics. Additionally, it is crucial to consider the learning dynamics of older adults, as uncertainty in technology can generate anxiety and a lack of confidence. When considering technology education, this has been mostly explored through the lens of learnability in HCI. However, what is learnability in HCI? Is it simply that a system is easy to learn? In a review by Grossman et al., it was found that studies have used broad and generic terms to define learnability, such as easy to use, first-time performance, etc., and concluded that in fact there was no clear definition. What is noticeable is that among the major usages of learnability as a sub-principle in usability is that learnability largely assesses how an individual accomplishes a task the first time they encounter a system and measures the amount of time and repetitions it takes to become efficient at using the system. Although older adults do go through these independent trial and error approaches, it is worth considering how can we leverage this collaborative aspect in learning. In order to explore the learning paradigms for older adults in learning automotive in-vehicle technologies, we conducted semi-structured interviews following the contextual design approach, wherein we interviewed the participants in their own vehicles to understand their expectations in AV research. We aimed to understand their distinct learning approaches as well as potential challenges in AV interface usage. From pre-prepared probes and questions, we had the discussions following 5 themes: current mobility needs, challenges in driving, their perception of future transportation, how their past driving experiences, as well as experiences in learning to use non-automotive technologies, influence their perception of AV usage. Participants were recruited from a regional senior activity club, as well as the researchers network, and were still engaged in driving activities. We did not specify the participant's age, as the age for who is considered an older adult varies by different agencies. Participants unveiled habitual practices in driving-related activities, as well as motivations and challenges in driving and learning to use in-vehicle technologies. From our interviews and qualitative thematic analysis, 4 main topics emerged, including attitudes toward driving and driving cessation, towards AV adoption, as well as learning strategies for in-vehicle interfaces and other non-automotive technologies. Participants were of the general consensus that driving is an important aspect in their daily lives as it provided them with a sense of being independent and in control. By maintaining the ability to drive, older adults felt they resisted age-related decline and loss of control. Participants were aware of the possibility they would not be able to drive in the future and were mostly reluctant when contemplating this scenario. While the participants in our study recognized the benefits of AVs, they also expressed concerns in their usage. Some participants could not envisage themselves using AVs, stating the technology would not likely be available to them in their lifetime, and they would not be able to afford them. Other concerns included safety and reliability. Inadequate or lack of instructions on in-vehicle technologies made the interfaces somewhat redundant. Although conventional hard-copy manuals were provided for the in-vehicle interfaces, the participants did not find them useful. Additionally, older adults stated that they prefer dealers, automotive suppliers, or salespeople to inform them about the functions and features. The inability to perform technology-related tasks affected the participants' self-esteem. Learners with low self-efficacy attributed their inability to use ICT items to their self-perceived low abilities when looking for support. When looking for support, older adults proved resourceful and sought support from various sources. One major area was intergenerational learning. The perception of younger people generally appears to be technologically adept and helpful. However, there may be a disconnect between the generations, as participants stated that they did not share the same language, and the sharing of experiences, language, and mnemonics was a significant factor in technology education. Rather than using conventional learning materials or learn through self-directed trial and error, the most significant factor that we found was that all older adults unanimously voiced a preference for a human mentor to instruct them, as participants stated that they would learn from other people. They would want somebody to physically show them and demonstrate them the interface usage. So, based on our findings, as well as existing literature, rather than learnability, we present the concept of mentorability, where mentorship, which is the collaborative process that results in the personal and professional growth of both parties, is integrated into the learning process. This involves giving psychosocial or motivational support, and instrumental, in this case, technical and technology-related support. Here we present our conceptual framework for mentorability. The framework consists of three main elements, the first being evolving mentorship roles. As older adults enter into mentorship dynamics, mentors who have experience and expertise can tailor instructional information according to the mentee's individual ability and prior knowledge. Additionally, older adults were found keen to impart their gained knowledge to others. Thus, they can also enter mentorship dynamics as mentors. From here, we envision interfaces that enfold older adults into the design process through co-design approaches, as well as interfaces that create a network of support and connect learners. We found distinct differences in the motivations to learn and motivations to use technologies for each individual. These motivations evolve and change over time depending on personal needs, interests, self-perception, the social needs and social expectations. Finally, as the technology itself evolves and changes over time, older adults may have trouble keeping up with the technology as our participants voiced concerns regarding updates and changes to the system. So we ask, where do older adults get their instructional information from? What does the instructional information contain? As well as, how can older adults receive the information? From here, we speculatively envision interfaces that utilize emerging technologies based off of the user's sensory requirements in hearing and vision. We suggest that the design requirements for mentorable interfaces tailor the familiarization and instructional aspect of AV adoption according to the older adult's pedagogical needs. In conclusion, we present the concept of mentorability and speculatively envision mentorable interfaces that allow social connections and collaboration by providing a platform for older adults to connect and mentor one another, boost self-confidence by reflecting the learner's progress, incorporate shared metaphors and experiences, tailor the delivery and instructional information through multimodal means and emerging technologies, such as augmented reality, which has been proven effective in collaborative learning. Thank you. For further information, please contact me at the email below.